The business of medicine is constantly changing. The review by Resolve discusses current contract issues for physicians, compensation trends, and tips for a successful career. Every physician's contract and career is different, and nothing in this episode should be considered legal advice. If you have specific questions about your career, please consult with an attorney. Now, on to the show.
Brady, welcome back to the review.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. We're going to talk today about another portion of the contract that I think is sometimes, it's a legal term that physicians don't know even what it means, right? So they're going to come across this paragraph and they're going to go, what is liquidated damages, right? Or what is this damage amount or penalty amount that I see in my contract and why is it even there? So give us a really high level, overview of what liquidated damages are, why they would be in a contract. Kind of give us your thoughts on that.
Sure. Yeah. So liquidated damages, it's a very set, defined amount that's specified in the contract, basically in the event that you breach it in some way. Okay. The argument, I think, from the employer side is basically, there's maybe an uncertain amount of damages that they could claim from that breach. So they have this very specific amount that they want to have defined that you're going to be liable to pay if you breach that specific term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that my first question is going to be, these are allowed. Like a judge will enforce this. This is something that's okay. Okay. So if it's going to be enforced, it's got to be reasonable. I would assume you can't put a penalty in that's or a damage amount that's too high. So it's for situations where we don't think they can calculate their damage.
Theoretically.
Yeah, in theory. Okay. So what portions of the contract would this show up in?
Yeah, I think there's a couple, but I think non-compete is the biggest one.
Sure.
Where if you were to violate the non-compete, they kind of attach on this liquidated damages for a very specific amount. Otherwise, in terms of maybe terminating the contract without abiding by a notice period, or without cause notice period, a lot of times it's a standard 90 days, and whatnot. But you always have to look at the contract. But if you would terminate before that, and not give that required notice, that could be another.
Sure. So leaving without giving them enough notice, right? So if you would leave, we would have patients that would show up and we'd lose revenue and we just don't know how to calculate that. And so here's this flat dollar amount that's going to come in. That's the argument. Or when you violate the non-compete, right, and you show up next door and all the patients love you and they walk across the street and join your practice, we don't know how to calculate that. Do we think those are good arguments? Do we think they can calculate that or not?
I don't like those arguments. I think it can be a little bit calculated pretty easily, or not, at least reasonably.
Yeah, I think an accountant could probably figure that out.
I think so.
Yeah. So generally, we would prefer to take liquidated damage provisions out.
Yeah.
Maybe with the exception of if the damage amount's really, really low, right? Like if the non-compete says, hey, you got to pay us $10,000 to get out of this, because they do kind of function as a buyout. Is that right?
They can. I think this is also another distinction where a lot of times they can be maybe shaped as a buyout, but it's also, you want to look at if it's going to be a mandatory payment in terms of, a lot of times there can be confusion on the buyout from the non-compete in terms of, or if it's a liquidated damages where if it's your election that you're actually deciding to buy out of the non-compete, it's different as opposed to if you were forced to pay this liquidated damages if you breach.
Sure. Okay. So I guess advice to clients would be what if they see these damage amounts in the contract?
Yeah, I think overall it's taking a look at actually what the amount is. I think a lot of times, especially in terms of the non-compete, you can see, maybe it's 12 months salary that they kind of stack on there for a liquidated damage amount. So it's always looking at what that amount is and seeing if you're comfortable with that situation going into the contract, that that could be in play if you actually violated the non-compete. So it's kind of looking at the damage amounts and then seeing if they can be removed ideally, but then it's also just kind of looking at, how it's shaped in terms of, whether it's a liquidated damage or if it's actually at your election that you could buy out of it for that price.
Yeah. Is it usually 12 months? I mean, is that kind of the number that you see as far as what the damage amount is?
Recently, that's what I've been seeing more often than not.
Okay.
Sometimes it's less.
This is a big number.
It's a very big number.
Right.
It's your salary for the whole year. I mean, it's a very
$250 to $700,000 of penalty if you violate a non-compete, depending on specialty. Yeah. Those are big numbers. Okay. So we don't like them. Try to take them out.
Yeah.
Is this a hill that they should die on?
It's a case by case situation.
Okay.
I think it depends on if you're looking to stay in the area. A lot of times it's hard to project into the future in terms of what you're going to be doing, and down the road. But if it's something that you see as a genuine, possibility that that's going to be a problem, then I think that's where you want to take a look at it more.
Yeah.
Closely.
Yeah, I agree. I was this goes to non-competes, which is not what we're talking about today, but is, if it's not an issue for you, right? If you're going to move 500 miles away, right? And this liquidated damage provision is never going to come into play, well, then who cares, right? Yep. Ignore it. If you think this is hometown, there's a really good chance I want to stay here. There might be another employer that wants to hire me. Yeah. They might want to buy this out, right? Or pay the damage amount for me. So I need to try to negotiate it now, right? So it could be one of the top issues. It could be something that's a non-event. So I agree with you. Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking about this, a very kind of specific issue, but I think an important issue. And so we'll chat again.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.